Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1565B, and today's date is May 10th, 2018, and the title of the episode is the trap being set in the Middle East breaking down the plan? Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, it seems like everything is completely going wrong for the deep state, and more information is being brought up. More information is coming out about what they've done, and the walls are closing in around them. McCain finally admits he is the source that gave former FBI Director James Comey the unverified dossier, which we kind of knew because we pretty much mapped it out in prior reports, but he's out there saying that, yes, he was the one who did it. We also see that Judicial Watch uncovered emails that reveal that James Comey coordinated his June 8, 2017 testimony in front of the Senate Intel Committee with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. So, as we can see, all these things are starting to come out, and things are not going that well for the deep state. We see North Korea, for instance. Those peace deals are moving forward. Trump was able to get hostages released. We see right now that Trump basically tweeted out that the summit is going to be held in Singapore on June 12th. And like I said before, we need to keep our eyes open because I wouldn't be surprised if the deep state tries something in this area. Maybe there's a bombing, maybe something happens where they can't have the summit, or maybe something happens while they're having the summit. But again, I would not count the deep state out just yet because we can see they're getting ready to push events like we've never seen before. We see right now the U.S. Treasury, since Trump has pretty much nixed the Iranian deal, they have now placed sanctions on Iran. They blacklisted 6 individuals. And we've seen this before. We've seen this with North Korea as North Korea continually tested their missile systems, their nuclear systems. They continually place sanctions on the country. And we know that sanctions really don't work. These countries are able to survive over the many, many years with sanctions. So they really don't do anything. But what is happening right now is that Europe, they're trying to keep the deal together. And Merkel right now says Europe can no longer rely on the U.S. to protect it. Macron is running around saying we need to keep this deal together. We'll work with Iran. We'll work with anyone. We can't let this deal die. And they're very, very worried about this deal. And it's not about Iran creating nuclear weapons. It's not about keeping peace in the region, because we know they don't care about peace. I mean, look at Lebanon, look at Syria, look at Iraq, look at Sudan, look at Ukraine. They were all part of this. So they really don't care about that. They're worried about what will happen if the world finds out what they've been doing with this deal. The slush funds, the uranium that's being smuggled in, what they've been doing all this time. Now, Israel is saying that Iran has crossed the red line. Now, this is deep state speak. This is what the deep state usually uses. You know, you're crossing red lines and they see black and white and that's all they see. And basically, Iran is sitting here like, okay, you canceled the deal and you're trying to say we cross the red line. What are you talking about? So basically, Israel is saying that Iran fired missiles at Israel. And Iran is out there saying, yeah, this is a false flag. We did no such thing whatsoever. And normally what Israel does to create these false flags is they fire missiles back into Israel, and the missiles never hit anything. They always land far off in the desert or something like that, and they're really, there's no damage ever. Nothing is ever hit. And again, why would Iran want to attack Israel right now? It makes no sense. Especially when Iran hasn't attacked anyone in 200 years to start a war. It makes no sense that they would move in this direction, because they know that the United States would join in and they would be obliterated. So it makes no sense for them to start attacking, especially when they're trying to work out the deal with the European nations. So this makes no sense whatsoever. Russia is out there saying, listen, Israel and Iran, they must show restraint. And of course, they're coming in saying, listen, we need to have peace. Let's calm the situation down. And we need to understand what has happened here, because Israel is saying that, they fired missiles, and this is why we fired missiles back at the Iranian bases. The Iranians are saying, we don't have bases there, so I don't know what you're talking about. Syria is out there saying, no, you didn't hit Iranian bases, you're hitting the Syrian army. So let's break this down a little bit to see what's really going on here. At least 20 rockets were launched from southern Syria at positions of the Israeli military in the Golan Heights. The rockets, they were reportedly aimed at the following Israeli targets: headquarters of the Border Brigade 9900, headquarters of the Border Brigade 810, a technical and electronic survey facility, headquarters of the EW jamming facility, communication and transmission facility, helicopters airfield, outpost at Hermon Mount, and another unit headquarters that was supposedly targeted. Not one got hit. Now, they have pictures out there showing missiles and stuff like that, showing there's bases or certain areas that were being hit by the Syrian missiles. And if you look at the pictures and you go back in time, they're not from today or yesterday. They're from 2016. So already we can see that the pictures that are being moved around about Israel getting hit in this area, it's not true. Now, again, Syria is saying that the missiles that were fired into their country, most of them were intercepted. And according to the Syrian state-run news agency, the Syrian Air Defense Forces intercepted about 10 of the Israeli missiles, preventing most of them from reaching their targets. However, part of the missiles hit a number of air defense battalions, radars, and ammo depot. The Lebanese military said that 4 Israeli warplanes violated the Lebanese airspace at the same time when Israel was carrying out the strikes. And Israel also targeted areas near Damascus, the countryside there, the province of Homs. And basically, the Syrian army have picked up these pieces of the missiles that they intercepted, and they've been displaying them, showing that, yeah, we intercepted these missiles. Now, what's very interesting about this is that while Israel was firing these missiles at this fake Iranian base, the moderate rebels, the Syrian Democratic Forces, took advantage of these missile attacks, and they mounted an offensive. Now, how did they know that this was coming, and how were they prepared to mount an offense, especially when these missiles were hitting Iranian bases? Or were they hitting the Syrian armed forces? That's what they were really hitting. So Israel is on a different agenda. They're using the Iranian deal to push their agenda and basically hit the goal they've been always trying to hit, and that is to remove Assad. I mean, they keep saying, we want to get rid of Assad. I mean, other countries are saying, yeah, we don't want Assad to go. We don't care now. It's too late. But it seems like this is still part of the agenda. Now, we need to remember, the deep state, they don't give up. They always try to reach their goal. And we know that the economic system is completely falling apart. We know the central bankers, they need an excuse to say that a country brought down the financial institutions or an individual brought down the institutions. They need someone to blame. And what's very interesting is since Trump canceled the Iranian deal, we see that the deep state is kind of taking advantage of this, and they're making their moves. Now again, is this a trap that has been set? Maybe. But what's coming out of this is that they're saying that Iran is likely to launch cyber attacks on Western businesses within months. And they're going to hit financial services, critical infrastructure providers, energy companies, along with government departments. So it looks like they're building the case once again that Iran is going to be responsible for basically the destruction of the economy. Now, if we go back in time, weren't they saying the same thing about North Korea? That they were preparing to use cyber attacks against the financial institutions. It seems like they're doing the same exact thing. Now, Q dropped some more intel, post 1323, May 9th, and basically put up this article about Rosatom. And Rosatom basically is a Russian nuclear company, and they were contracted by Iran to build nuclear reactors. And what do we know about Rosatom? Well, we know that Rosatom is the Russian link to Uranium One. We know Uranium One involves treasonous action by the deep state, the cabal, to make money and to divert American product towards their agenda. We know the Iran deal can be assumed as hush money to the Iranians to keep their mouths shut about the source of the uranium. And we can see that Trump has just cut off their payments. And the Iranian regime is now free to speak the truth because they're no longer receiving these payments. Now, Europe is going to have to save the deal, and they're going to have to come up with the funds to keep Iran quiet. Now, think about this. Macron and Merkel are running around, and Iran is saying, listen, if you want to keep this deal and you want to keep us quiet, we need some money. And I believe this is what this is about. This is not about, oh, we've got to keep peace. We got to make sure they don't develop nuclear weapons. This is about keeping the Iranians quiet. This is about Iran saying, hey, you want us to stay quiet? Give us what we were getting before, maybe even a little bit more. So let's go into this a little bit more. We know that Rosatom is part of this Uranium One deal. And there is a problem with the Uranium One deal with Rosatom. And this is with Clinton, Obama, and all this. No uranium produced at either facility may be exported. The NRC declared November 2010 press release that announced that the ARMZ, a subsidiary of the Russian state-owned Rosatom, had been approved to take ownership of the Uranium One mining firm and its American assets. Now, Uranium One, nor AMRZ, holds a specific NRC export license, so they can't export Uranium One. So the extracted uranium could not be exported by Russia without a license, which Rosatom does not have. So they can't do it. So rather than give Rosatom a direct export license, which would have raised red flags inside Congress, which is already suspicious about this Uranium One deal, the NRC in 2012 authorized an amendment to an existing export license for a Kentucky-based trucking firm called RSB Logistics Services to simply add Uranium One to the list of clients whose uranium it could move to Canada. And this is why this was all kept in secret, and this is the deals that Clinton, Obama made, and this is why all this money was kept secretive, to keep Iran quiet, to keep all the players happy, and basically, eventually, use this to blame the war on Russia that they used a nuclear device. And this is what they've been trying to do. Now, let's talk about what is going on here, because everyone is talking about war. And if we do enter war, World War III, like everyone is talking about, it's game over anyhow. And everyone was talking about war with North Korea. And we actually have peace now. So let's look at this plan. And we're supposed to trust the plan according to Q. Let's look at what is happening right now. The United States said we are no longer going to be included in this Iranian deal because Q has said many, many times that there are players within this deal that have been funneling money, have funneling uranium. It's all connected, laundering money, keeping the Iranians quiet because they're receiving the funds. And basically Q is saying that now, since the funding isn't happening, Iran is free. They can speak freely because they're not being held by this agreement. Now, basically, we knew once this happened, the deep state was going to go crazy. They're going to run around, they're going to visit Trump, they're going to try to make the deal because they don't want anything coming out from this area. So, while this is happening, we have Israel now, and they're pushing their events in Syria, blaming it all on Iran. Now, their motive, I think, is completely different than what Trump is trying to do. Israel is still under the push of getting rid of Assad, moving into Syria, then eventually going to Iran. And we have to think back a little bit, because Russia did say, listen, if these attacks keep up by Israel, we're going to give Syria the S-300 missile system. And we might even gift it to them. We might not even let them pay for it. We might just give it to them. And this will be for the whole southern area. And I believe this is why Netanyahu went up to Putin many, many times before to talk him out of it. And I think right now, with Israel using the excuse of this Iranian deal to attack Syria, which makes no sense, saying that they're attacking Iranian bases, which still makes no sense because Iran is saying, well, we don't have bases there. And Syria is saying, well, you're not hitting bases, you're hitting our armed forces. And then the moderate rebels, they mounted an offensive at the same exact time. Do you think this will now push Russia into giving Syria the S-300 missile system to protect the southern area? I do believe this. I believe this was a calculated move, and I think Trump wanted Russia to bring this missile system in to protect the southern area of Syria, to block Israel, to shut down the push into Syria. Now remember, if Iran is the problem, why isn't Israel and the United States attacking Iran? Well, they have the Russian missile system, and it's fully functional, and it's protecting their airspace. So they're not going to fire at Iran. That's why they're using Syria. And I believe this was part of the plan. Now, the other part of the plan is to expose the deep state on how the uranium deal was delivered and used to set up Russia, and how the money was funneled and things like that. And basically, what this is doing, it's allowing Iran to speak freely. Now, again, if Europe comes together and actually ends up paying Iran with the deal, then Trump lost. His calculated move didn't work because now Iran stays quiet. Do you really think at this point Europe is so together that they're going to work on this together to keep Iran silent? I don't think so. And I think what's going to happen is that Russia is going to give the S-300 missile system to block the attack from the southern area, because that was the only area that was kind of open. They pretty much have the northern area, the mid-section of Syria, pretty much locked down. And we see right now that they need to lock down some more. Now, I think this is all in preparation to bring the troops home eventually. But certain things had to happen. And by bringing the troops home, you needed to expose what was going on. And he needed to expose that this Iranian deal was actually not good. And I think this is why all of this is happening. Now, we know that the deep state is panicking. Q dropped some more intel post 1324 May 10th, saying that the Islamic State individuals, the 5 most wanted, they were captured. And basically what they did for this was, out of the blue on Thursday morning, Trump tweeted that the most wanted leaders of ISIS have been captured. And they used an app on Baghdadi's smartphone to lure 4 commanders from the terrorist organizations into a trap, convincing them, the 4 Iraqis and 1 Syrian, to cross the border from Syria to Iraq, where they were captured by officials. Now, normally, you don't see the Islamic State leaders, which, are they really the Islamic State leaders, or are they paid mercenaries put in there by the United States deep state, by the coalition deep state forces, and Israel, and they're out of the picture. They're the ones who are calling the shots. Remember, they kept on saying Baghdadi, he was killed, then he was found alive, then he was killed. Well, he's a fictional character. That's not really who that is. And this is why they keep saying this over and over and over. And I do believe that Baghdadi is a Mossad agent and moves in and out of different areas, is in disguise. And we see right now that basically all this was set up by the deep state. All of this was set up to make us believe that the Islamic State is a real terrorist group, Al-Qaeda is a real terrorist group. And in Q's post, it says names, no name, previous meetings. Remember, no name is McCain. McCain met with all the Al-Qaeda leaders. All of this was coordinated. Right now, no name is panicking. And of course, if you listen to what he's saying, he's really pushing death, funerals. I think he's using his medical condition, if he really does have one, to escape. And Q says, now comes the pain, because all of this is going to be exposed. And it looks like it's really bad right now, and I think it looks a lot worse than it is, and I think things are going to get a lot better and clearer as time goes on. Just like with North Korea. When we talked about North Korea, where everyone was out there and the corporate media was out there saying we're heading towards war, we were actually talking about peace, what was going on behind the scenes. And I do believe this is what's going on behind the scenes, because Trump keeps on saying he wants to bring the troops home. How do you get them home The deep state will continually push in Syria unless you lock down Syria. Syria is not locked down right now, and I think they have the southern section, and I think they need the S-300 system there, which would lock down the airspace in that entire area. And we can see right now, this looks like it's a push. Iran is locked down with their airspace, and I think this is part of the plan to shut all of this down and expose what is going on with the Uranium One deal. I think this is the main focus of all this, where all this money is going, who is being paid off, who is receiving the funds, what has been being done with the uranium and everything like this. And yes, there are Russian companies that are involved in this, and it's one gigantic spider web that is going to be exposed. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.